Have you ever imagined being woken up by the phone ringing in the early hours of the morning? I'm Charles, and now I'm going to tell you something scary that happened to me. It was a disturbing experience that still leaves me thoughtful. It was an ordinary Tuesday, like all the others. I went to sleep around 11 at night, as I need to wake up early for work. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by the phone ringing. I rushed to answer it, as receiving a call late at night is never a good sign. I thought something serious had happened to someone close to me. When I answered, no one said anything. I asked several times who it was, but no one answered. I thought it was a prank call and hung up. I tried to see the number without caller ID, but it didn't seem to work. Look at the clock, it was 2 in the morning. I went back to sleep. Shortly after, I was awakened again by the phone ringing. I answered again and, again, no one said anything. I threatened to call the police about the prank call and hung up. I thought that would be enough to stop the calls, but just in case, I turned off the phone so I could sleep. The next day was normal, but when I got home from work and turned on the phone, everything seemed peaceful until I was woken up again by the same call. I couldn't take it anymore and ignored the ringing, but the calls didn't stop. I answered and asked who it was and why he didn't answer me. Finally, I heard a voice on the other end asking if I would like a visitor. I cursed and hung up the phone, waiting for another call. After 2 minutes, the phone rang again. I tried to question why this was happening, but the only thing anyone said was whether I would like a visit. This time I realized it was a man's voice, but it sounded weird. I responded by saying that if he wanted to come, he should come, as I was armed. The call has been terminated. I thought I scared him. When I went to bed, I felt a strange sensation, as if there was someone in my room, but I ended up sleeping. I was woken up by someone knocking on my bedroom door. I was extremely scared and asked who he was and what he wanted, telling him that he was armed and that he had already called the police. I dialed the police with my cell phone. They said it would take about 10 minutes to arrive and that I would necessarily prevent a person from entering the room. I moved some furniture to block the door. The knocking became louder, as if someone really wanted to enter. After a while, I heard the police shouting that they had arrived. The knocking stopped. They knocked on my bedroom door, searched the house and the surrounding area, but found nothing. They promised to do a tour of the area. I told a friend at work what happened. She asked me if I had bought the phone from someone or at a garage sale. I replied that the phone was already at home when I moved. She advised me to get rid of my phone as soon as possible. I threw the phone away and never received those strange calls again. But if that thing had come into my room, what would it have done to me? I'm scared just thinking about it. Second story. I will not reveal my name or the name of the company I worked for, to avoid problems. I was a night security guard at a supermarket chain company, monitoring the place through security cameras alongside another security guard. Normally, everything was peaceful. We took turns napping while the other kept an eye on the cameras. It was my turn to stay awake when the cabin phone rang. At the time, I was scared, because at that time there was no one else in the market. I answered and asked who it was. They just responded, telling me to go to the company bathroom, and hung up. It wasn't a familiar voice. I woke up my coworker and explained what happened. He said it was impossible to have anyone there who could be a criminal. We looked at the security cameras and there was no one there, no alarm had been raised. How was someone calling us? It didn't make sense. The phone rang again, urging me to go to the bathroom. I decided to check the caller ID and saw that the call was coming from an office near the bathroom. The other security guard, whose name I won't reveal, and I went to the office to see what was going on and who was making the calls. When we got there, there was no one, no sign of presence. As we passed the bathroom door, we heard a macabre laugh. Even though I was scared, I needed to see what it was. After all, it was my job. We opened the bathroom door cautiously and came across a tall, thin figure, to the point where we could see his bones. He had his head against the wall, laughing. Suddenly he stopped laughing, looked at us and ran towards us. We closed the door and ran back to the cabin. We called the police, and while we were locked up waiting for the officers, the phone rang again. This time, what that thing said was something I will never forget. "Come to the bathroom, I just want to play with you. I want to take your soul to a warm, warm place." And then he laughed again. The police arrived and found no one, but there was blood all over the bathroom and a horrible smell. After that, I cannot disclose anything further as it is part of the investigation. Third story. My name is Jimmy, and the story I'm going to tell you now is something that shook me deeply. I was 19 years old when it happened, in 2017. I spent a lot of time on my cell phone, since I didn't leave the house much. One of the early mornings, I received a call. The strange thing is that there was no number or name, as usual. I answered and, before I could say anything, I heard a scream. It sounded like the scream of someone very angry. I hung up immediately, thinking it was trolling, but I was scared. I asked all my friends and acquaintances if it had been one of them, but they all denied it. The next day, the same thing happened, exactly the same as the night before. And the next day too. The difference is that I didn't answer and I set my cell phone to not receive any more calls. The next day, when I checked the call history, there were none. That day, I went to sleep at a friend's house. He asked me to let him answer if he got another call. When the call came, he answered it. He heard the same scream and started mocking, asking if the person who was screaming wanted a tranquilizer or was imitating Tarzan. Upon hearing this, the person on the other end started laughing and said that we would meet soon. I asked my friend to hang up, and that stuck in my head. While we were sleeping, we heard a very loud knock on the front door of his house, followed by the same scream we heard on the phone. My friend's father woke up and ran to see what had happened. We went too, but there was nothing. The street cameras only recorded a very tall, strong and strange man going to the door of the house and doing that. The police investigated but never found anything. My friend and I never told about the call. And I never received those calls again.